Hello folks, welcome to our ELR Session 8, Factual and Public Record Research. Essentially, what you're going to learn here today is to using the public record to find the information about a person, about a business entity, or about a real property. So because those are information that may matter to you as attorney, so still those factual-based information, they still fall into the bigger category of legal research, right? Finding some fact about those individual or entity would be helpful, because a lot of time it's more about like due diligence check. Business information. So hopefully you still remember something about the business cooperation related law. So those basic information matters because those information differs different business type in regarding their rights and duty. Right? For example, their organization construction, like is that a corporation, is that LLC, is that LLP, right? It matters with their rights and duties. And public or private. Yeah, so public traded company, they have a lot of disclosure duties to the SEC, while the private they don't. And owners, well, owners are they, for example, who own this company, and they may have the conflict of interest, etc. And address, this is about where to provide the service of process. Where there's no designated address, well, you can find out some person who is designated for the service of process. And same thing for the board of directors, they carry a fiduciary duty, right? And last is the financial information. Of course, it varies a lot based on the type of business, whether that's a private business or it's whether that's a public traded business. So it matters a lot and it differs a lot, and this is why you got to find those information. You don't want to just have the good faith reliance on another person saying. You have to do your due diligence, right? So this is how it matters. So where you can find the business information from the fee-based services. Both Vest and Lexis, they do have the fee-based services. And these two services, company investigator and public record, they are within our law school subscription. But when you start to practice in law, your law firm subscription will not default cover these two resources. They are essentially the add-on service. You have to pay extra for them. And company and financial, this is quite similar to the company investigator to the Vest Laws public record search, because they just pull up all of this or purchase those information from a third-party company and then make them searchable in regarding the business. Right? And I will just summarize here and then I will run the demo. If you are looking for the business information, well, actually this is not a free resource but it's a very low-cost resource. So that's a state of tax secretary office. And they have the portal, because every business you run in this state, you have to register the business under the secretary of the state. And here is the website. So it's not totally free. So every time it's just $1 cost, but it's quite a minimal. You can basically find all the statutory required registration disclosure, like ownership, like capital value, like the business type, and if there's any judicial, if there's any like lien attached to that that business, etc., or property. That's a SOS direct, and you can also find people and their assets, so it helps you when you are doing your pre-litigation assessment. For example, when you are trying to find the people, not finding the people, we are trying to evaluate, well, how much damage you want to pursue, go through the litigation. You want to check how well if they opposing party, they are rich or have nothing, because if they don't have too much money, probably you won't get like you won't make a request for damage like $5 million, etc. Surveys of process matters, because this is what happens quite often when you try to file a lawsuit against another person or another business. You have to provide them surveys of process, and before you do that, you have to locate that person or that business, have an address. So this is why it matters, and it matters a lot. I've seen some legal professionals, they are trying to locate some person or business abroad. And of course, they don't have a good way to do that. So they have to rely on those third-party service providers like Vast or Lexus. They may not provide the 100% accurate address, but they got something, right? It's better than nothing. And also, finding those facts can help you to prepare the case. In regarding, all the aspects of the case, finding to verify all the information, whether they are valid, whether they are still updated, whether they still accurately reflect what either your clients or another person told you. You don't want to just blankly trust what other people say, right? And also, the last thing is collection. So just like what I said, well, if you're trying to fight against a big company, probably you can have the large amount of damage to be pursued. Or if you have your client need to collect some money from another business or another person, well, that person got basically nothing. No assets under that person's name. So collection would be not a solid option. You have to find some other ways to collect the money that you have the right to. So those are the reasons, and essentially you want to, it's part of your research, right? And you don't want to just, you want to do your job. You want to verify the information so that you can move on to ensure that the service that you provided to your client are accurate. You don't want to just tell your clients, well, after a closed deal of the real property transaction, well, a third party just stand up and saying, well, they have the right to the real property that you just closed the deal. Well, don't want to surprise your clients in that way, so checking those facts can help you to solve those things. That means do some due diligence on your end. Also, we have some fee-based services. They are much more advanced. We only have one access to public records based on the subscription that we have. The other three, their major user are actually not the legal profession. Those major three, Accurate, Investigate Portal, and Clear, their major clients are the law enforcement agencies. And why is that? For example, you can find a lot of things from the public record, which we do have access to. But for the other three, for example, Clear, they collect some information that the law enforcement do not collect. For example, a person's address history, email history, or maybe the phone number history. Why those information matters? Because in law enforcement side, they do not collect those information. They collect like your social security number, they collect your driver's license number, but they cannot possibly track where you live in the past, like a comprehensive history. But those like history address, or the historical address, or the historical phone number, or the historical for example, the email address can matters a lot when they are trying to investigate certain crime. For example, certain terrorists, they track down a terrorist name, and then they want to find out the terrorist phone number and the potentially used phone number or the email address. So in the government side, they don't have that information. So those third-party companies, they try to aggregate from different resources to to gather some information. They are very unlikely to cover every piece of a person's email address, historical address, etc. But they tend to give law enforcement a good chance to find something, right? It helps them to start their investigation. Otherwise, they don't know where to start, because you cannot just go to. They don't know whether the client, whether that criminal is using a Gmail or a Hotmail or Yahoo account for their email transaction. So those information are important to the law enforcement, and we only have access to public record. I will show you how to use it. It's quite straightforward. Another free resource that I use quite often is NETR, Real Property Records Online. If you are trying to find out the real property history you already got the address of that real property. Whatever you do, you're trying to dealing with that real property involving a mortgage. You are trying to close a deal of this selling of this real property, whatever. You want to check the check certain things about this real property. For example, whether this real property has a clean title. Second, you want to check if there's any suspicious transaction or third-party claims attached to this real property. And for those type of things, as long as you have the specific address, you don't need to use those fee-based services. Of course, you can, but you don't have to, because you can use a free resource. One is the clerk office. So every county clerk office, they do record those information, because this is part of the deal when you have to make any real property transactions. You have to record that deed in the county clerk office. And also the appraisal district help you to find out whether they give you a general idea how much value the real property carries, because it tells you the appraisal district essentially tells you the real property tax this owner pay for this real property, right? So NETR, Real Property Record Online, this is a great tool, because it essentially just palm up all the county clerk office throughout the country. So, for example, I can go to Texas, and I will view more and to find Lubbock. Or you can just Google Lubbock County Clerk Office or District Appraisal Office, etc. So you can find County Clerk Office, and I can also find Appraisal District. So County Clerk Office works in this way. I will show you how to use it. And this is the appraisal district where you pay the real property tax for this for your real property. And so here is an example. It's Orlando. It's a very good restaurant and quite a popular one. And let's try to find Orlando's address, starting with Alexis, right? Or you can directly Google Orlando's, and you can find the address. But let's pretend we are more comprehensive than that. Let's go to Alexis. And all of us should have access to public record. You can find it here. And if you don't have access to it, please let me know. And once you open it, you can basically search everything. You can search people, you can search assets if you know the specific address or the real property, or you can search business or court filing. So you can search a lot of things. What this public record offered by Lexis do is they purchase all the different sort of information from third-party vendors, and then they put them, aggregate all the information here, put them searchable, and then this is a service. Of course, it has a lot of limitation. All of this information here you can find, they are available to the general public. So there is no like internal hidden information which is not available to the general public. So this portal essentially just aggregate all the information which is available to the general public to one place. So what you cannot find here is the very sensitive information. For example, another person's social security number, another person's credit report, or another person's driver's license number. Those are the issues regulated heavily by the federal statute, federal privacy law. So in the past, public record, this service used to permit certain users to use to access those very sensitive information, but they turn off this feature because essentially those federal privacy law says if you want to access those very sensitive information, you have to be basically working on, it's basically part of your job duty, right? They don't want to have a law student to search, well, what's your neighbor's like driver's license number or social security number, right? It's quite understandable, and for the law school access to this service, we don't have the access to those very sensitive information. But let's say we are looking for business, right? And we are looking for Orlando's. And just feed the system as much information as you have. So I know that's Lubbock. I don't know the specific information, and I know that's in Texas. If you know, like Google, by Google search, you can get some like specific address. Well, that'll be terrific. But let's say that's all I have right now. So here I got a full list of different information. So you can see, check their timeline, right? And this timeline is very well updated. Another one very well updated. Well, this one is not so well updated. Well, relatively well updated. Bad. This is not so well updated. And you want to, when you are using those services open, each of them will not cost you extra money. So just view them. And let's see this Orlando. So we can see what we have here is the corporate filing to the Texas Secretary of State, right? And the specific address, tax ID, business type, and the status, well, is still in existence. And it's well, registered agent. It helps, right? So Leo Lee Turner, and then we got the corporation second filing, and you can check last seen in 2025. You can see this filing is in 2025. So essentially those services, there are some third-party companies, they aggregate those information, and then Lexus just purchase them and put them here. Right? And that's a filing, and then business data. So sales, well, that's a lot of sales, right? So good business, and then they have the FEIN number, right? And they have the mortgage, and they have the tax assets record. So one records may not necessarily cover most updated information or the most accurate information. So you want to review all the record one by one. So those are the how you use this service to fund business. Or if you want, you can try to find another person. Well, just feed the system as much information as you have. For example, person's name. If you know the social security number, if you can find them. Majorly, you can find the person's. For example, a person's registration card, the voter registration, because that requires a social security number. And then it will list a person's address history, and if there's any real property registered under that person's name, they will be listed here. I will not show you that. If you are interested or got time, just play with it, right? It's quite straightforward. And this is how we use Lexus. And Invest Law, oh, let's go back to Lexus. They also have a company and financial portal, which pulls out the similar information. You can just search the business name, etc. Quite similar to the usage of public records. And Invest Law, they have a similar thing, which is a where is that? Transaction. Yes, company investigator. So it carries a very similar thing that you can find through the through a public record, because most of the services they do not collect those information or the business information by themselves. They purchase those information from like third-party companies. So they carry some very similar stuff. If you got time, please try them, right? And that's Westlaw and Lexis and fee-based services. If you are looking for the Secretary of State of Texas, well, go to this portal. I will not have you to test or practice on this portal because it will cost you money. So, but you want to keep your record that this is a good place if you are looking for the business information in Texas. And then for the NETR, let's say we are looking for the Orlando's. Let's start with the address, right? Go to find the real property search. So I'm looking for Orlando's. And so we got yes, we see this person's name, right? Lloyd Turner, and it has several addresses, right? So it seems that Orlando Enterprise, probably I want to have this restaurant here. There are several restaurants. You might want to check out their record to make sure that maybe Orlando's have like multiple places in Lubbock. I don't know. I just know there's one. And you can find its basic real property information about this property, right? You can find the owner's name. Well, it's owned by a company, right? Incorporation, and it's still active. And you can find its taxable value is here. So if you are trying to purchase this real property here, it gives you a estimate, not something that you can use directly, but give you an estimate how much value this real property carries. And also it gives you the value history. If you're looking for the bills or the real property tax of this business where this property has paid throughout the history, you can find here in 2024 they paid 1,000. So it looks like they paid everything. If you can also find out their like payment invoice, right? So they did pay for the 2024 real property tax, right? So that's one way to use it. And this is a major, the appraisal district is a major way to help you to find out whether this place paying the tax or give you an estimate of their real property's value. If you are trying to find any other additional information about this real property, you want to go to county clerk office. So every county, they do have this county clerk office. Many of them, they do have the online website, and they put many information online, so which is great. And what you can find in the Lubbock County Clerk Office, you can find the land record. You can find the name. Let's say a lady got married. She changed her last name to the combined with her husband's last name, and then got divorced, and then she removed her ex-husband last name, etc. So you can find the assumed name here, and as long as that lady made such change within Lubbock. If that lady made this change in another county clerk office, well, you cannot find them here. Each of the county clerk office, they only collect their the information within that county, right? They do not like cross-reference or share their information with each other. You can also find the marriage certificate as long as that marriage certificate is filed in Lubbock County, or death certificate as long as that certificate is filed in the Lubbock County, and then birth certificate, you can also find that. But let's say we are looking for the land records. So based on what you have, if all you have is just the persons or the business name, search it here. If you know, for example, the legal description of that land, of that real property, like subdivision, lot, etc. Well, you want to put them here. That will give you a much more accurate location to find that real property. But let's say we don't have such information. All I have is just Orlando's. You can just simply search it here, and I don't know a recording date. I don't know whether Orlando's is grantor or grantee, so I will search. So I find many. Let's check. We are looking for the good Orlando, right? We know this is Orlando's restaurant, and we know Turner is the owner of this restaurant. So they essentially represent the same thing. I'm not sure whether Orlando is this Orlando is a restaurant, so I will just hold it there. And enterprise still in question. So, but at least I know. So 1, 2, they must be related to the Orlando's, right? And I think Orlando's, you have to do some like preliminary research. So based on what I find here, so Orlando's enterprise, they are probably related to the Orlando's restaurant. So presumably many of them, they are related to the same business. That means it gave us this place essentially list all the real property transaction were related rights, were duties attached to the Orlando's real property. So we have the deed of trust. Those are the lot of deed of trust. That's a mortgage, and then we have several release of some lien or trust, and then we got another trust. We got the deed. We got another trust. We got a trust. So let's see the most recent trust. Not necessarily the most recent trust, but let's see the most recent one. So 1989, 1991, 1993. So the most recent one is the deed of trust, which is attached to the Orlando's Enterprise Inc. and it's in. Let's see the details here. So the return address is Wells Fargo, and this is a mortgage. And here you can find the real property's legal description to find that real property. And of course, those information here, they do not carry all the details of this recorded trust. So, but it helps you to do the initial research. What you want to do next to find the details about this recorded trust is to contact, give a phone call, or go to visit the county clerk office, and they will pay. You have to pay some minimum fee so that you can access those registered mortgage here. The reason, if you still remember in 1L in your real property class, so those are the county clerk office, they do maintain an index of real property for each real property. So at least all of these historical transactions were rights attached to a certain real property. So also this is where traditionally attorneys have to check this index to find if there's any third party's lien attached to this case, to these records. So, but they do not, you can see they do not carry all the details of mortgage, etc., or the liens. So you want to actually call the county clerk office to get the more detailed information, and not to mention the more like historical information. Let's say in the before 2050, you have that there's a deed recorded in the county clerk office in 1950. I bet you that records will not be shown up in the website. Right, because they have to. Somebody has to type in those records, and then these records will be here. But they still keep the print edition of the records, and do your job as a old school fashion. And sometimes the public records do not carry the information online, so don't worry. Just again, follow the old-fashioned way. Call the county clerk office, or give them a visit their office, and then pay some minimum fee, and they will pull out the records that you need. Right? So you can find a lot of information, and those are the things you want to do the due diligence checking, so that you can verify all the information is correct, and especially there's any third-party lien attached to this real property, etc., or mortgage. Because let's say you are trying to close a deal of a real property transaction. Let's say this is a real property you want to transact. And then the seller said, well, it has a clean title, and no other No other people have the claim over it. So it gives a real property, let's say $100,000 value. But with your checking, with your verification, you'll find, well, this person does not have the claim title because there are several liens attached to this real property. And you want to make sure, so that may potentially damage the value of this real property. So if there is multiple liens, probably it will only carries maybe like $50,000 in the real value, maybe, right? So those are the things you want to think about. And here is how you find a business, how you find a person, etc. And also you can, in regarding the facts finding, you can also find the verdict and settlement on Westlaw and Lexis. But you know, those verdict and the settlement, many of them, they are not within the scheme of public record, right? So and actually many of them, especially the settlement, they're actually the secret settlement just between that two parties. So what we can find on Westlaw and Lexis are the verdict and settlement that are voluntarily reported by attorneys. Because they are voluntarily provided, their content coverage is terrible, but still Westlaw and Lexis, they are trying to do something so that it helps the legal professionals to find some verdict and settlement. Why do they help? They help you to evaluate the case. For example, you don't know. Let's say this is the first time you handle like a defamation case. It's actually a libel case. Let's say, and that case arises. You bring that case in, let's say, Lava County Court, and you don't know how much damage you want to claim. Maybe 1 million, maybe just $1,000, and you want to get some insight about what is a good number of damage. So checking those self-reported verdict and settlement can give you some hints, right? And also it helps you for the settlement negotiation. For example, it gives you some like targeted number. What number is reasonable? So you don't want to just embarrassing or play the hard ball, or either the soft ball, so that you just surrender everything to your opposing party. Give you some like hints on how to negotiate the settlement. And also those verdict and settlement provide you some expert witness information. So if you are trying to find some expert witness, well, those information can help you. And also it helps you to find the attorney information about the opposing party. Let's say still in the same defamation case, you find out that opposing party or the opposing counsel, they may have tons of experiences. So those information may affect your decision in making the case strategy, or the generic decisions regarding how to proceed the case. Maybe have a settlement, maybe fighting hard. Well, those are the subjective information. So these services try to provide you some objective information to feed so that you can build up your subjective decisions. And where you can find them? In Westlaw, you can find verdict. Where is verdict? Yes. Jury verdict and settlement. So essentially here, based on your jurisdiction, just like how you choose run the case law search. So let's say we are looking for Texas, and I'm looking for this is how this service looks like. They don't have the browsable database. So all you have is on this page, homepage of it is just the most 10 recent reported verdict and settlement. What you want to go is to go to advanced search. Here you can run some keyword-based search within the collection of Texas jury verdict. So how to do that? Let's say I'm looking for all of this term, all of these terms. Yes, their connection is and, right? So any of this term is A or B. So exact phrase is an exact phrase, but not. We normally don't use it. So all of these terms, so I will go with defamation. Let's say libel. and grading expander, that's libel labeling. You should have learned that from the other ELR regarding the Boolean search. So I'm looking for a libel case in Texas, and we can refine the jurisdiction, etc. later. So we have almost 200. Let's see if we can find any case which is set in the Lubbock County Court, or the well, those are the federal court. I don't want that. I just want to get the federal trial court. And they may come from totally different jurisdictions. Well, no, Texas State Court. Well, that's fine. And from the Harris County. So you see, they come from the larger county. So it gives you a better chance to find those cases arise from those county. So let's say if we can find a Lubbock. Excuse me. Let's say if we can find a Lubbock County Court. No, there's no Lubbock County Court reported verdict or the settlement, so that's fine. But still, by reading those materials, it gives you some hints. Let's say 1995, there's a defamation case, a libel case, and then you can find there's no jury verdict, actually $0, right? And you can find the basic fact. So based on this basic fact, you can find, based on which party you represent for, you can have a general idea how much money you can expect for the verdict or settlement. Similarly, in Lexis, you can run the same thing. They also get the verdict search. So essentially, you run the search quite similar to what you have in Factual, right? Quite straightforward. It's just based on what you need. Right? You don't. Of course, you can just ask your colleagues or a boss when you're in the law firm. Ask steal some wisdom or experiences so that you don't need to check these fee-based services. Again, these fee-based services, those features on Factual and Lexis, they do not covered by your default Factual and Lexis subscription. You have to pay more. So it's just based on your access, and also based on whether you can get some good advice from your colleagues in the law firm, right? And last, we have we already mentioned this part. So the last thing is our Internet Archive. And this is a great tool that we have. So this Internet Archive gave us a very good feature. Oh, let's say. Is temporary offline, but this is a great service in regarding this service actually provide us a good archive for the web page. So let's say one of the web page here, let's say this page is something that you want to track, but for some reason this page is bad link. Right, it's not available. So what you can do is using the Internet Archive to roll back to find some historical screenshot of that page. It may not necessarily give you what you want, but it gives you some last resort to retrieve that how they retrieve that bad page. Right, get some historical version. And alas, that this website does not work right now. So, but still, it can be used as evidence. You see, there's maybe some like authentication issues, but it is based on the court rule. It's not the issue here, right? So those are the material that I want to cover. Don't forget, you will have an assessment, which essentially you want to submit and. Within 1 month, and I will within 1 month, and I will not within 1 month. It's as soon as possible when you take this session, and I will return the grading to you within 1 month. So you can find all of this information on Blackboard. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And thank you for your time. Have a great day.